power rankings. We got to talk about power rankings.
Big time.
Do we have the picture? Did Anthony pull it up? I don't know if he has the actual overcast, and I apologize for this. Yes, there we are. There she is. There's your power rankings. Austintown Fitch at the top of the polls, 4-0. Last week they were number 2. Canfield flips with Fitch at 4-0. It's going to be an interesting topic we're going to talk about here in just a minute. South Range still at 3, even though they survived the scare against the Struthers Wildcats. They're 4-0. Cheney moves up the ranks to number 4. JFK to number 5. Girard up to number 6 from number 8 last week. Lowellville moves up from number 9 to number 7. West Branch is on at 8 at 3-1. They're up from number 10. Valley Christian makes their debut at number 9, and Ursuline slips down the polls from number 4 to number 10 off that tough loss to Austintown Fitch. Richie, when you're looking at this, what's the first thing that jumps out to you?
Well, I think obviously Fitch jumping Canfield is the first thing that jumps out to me, although I think Fitch might deserve it after beating Ursuline. You know, the way they did, they were up big. They were up 35 at one point in that ball game, and, you know, things kind of slipped away in that second half. But, you know, that's what happens when you face a good Ursuline offense. I still think that was going to be a good game regardless. And, you know, Canfield, I think, has something to say about that. They shut out a team 42-0 that came from Canada and that won 3 out of their last 5 state championships. Although I think that team is a little bit rusty seeing them in person because of the pandemic up there in Canada. It's a lot worse.
Was that their first week?
It was their first week of the season. Oof. Yeah. First week of the season, first time playing in a couple of years because of what COVID's done up there in Canada.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, they looked a little shaky, but Canfield still took care of them with a goose egg on the scoreboard defensively, and the Cards scored in every single offensive possession but one, and that was at the end of the game because the clock ran out. So, you know, Canfield offensively has something to say about that, but, you know, they're going to be able to battle against the number 4 team in Cheney this week. So, I mean, that'll be a staple win for the Cardinals if they're able to come out and beat Cheney on the road. So I guess that's the one thing that sticks out to me first and foremost is that, you know, Fitch, after a couple of weeks of argument, whether they should jump Canfield or not, they finally do it here as we enter week 5.
I know I talked to Ackelson and my vote was Canfield on top. It's hard to not. I mean, if you're the number 1 seed, it's hard to knock you off, especially, what was it, 35-0, 42-0. So you look at that. Do I think Fitch should jump him? I mean, maybe eventually, but this is the week, I think, coming up that the opportunity's there.
No, it is. I mean, if Canfield is able to beat Cheney, I mean, I think the Cardinals then have a bigger argument because it's like, all right, we're beating everybody respectively, and if we beat Cheney, you know, they're a top 4 team right now, and they're undefeated at 4-0.
Amo with a great question. What would be a better win, Ursuline or Cheney?
That's tough.
Got to be Cheney.
I mean, right now it's Cheney because they're 4-0, but
not only that, but they're same division. You're looking at Canfield. If Canfield beats Cheney, how do they not jump over Fitch?
Yeah, well, Fitch. The problem with Fitch is they're playing a team from Buffalo that has been historically really good. So now you can't. Now that Fitch has overcome Canfield and has taken that number 1 seed, I don't think there's any way that the Cardinals can now jump Austintown unless Fitch will lose at some point.
How is that fair, though? And that's why I'm not trying to manipulate this. Everybody has their own votes, and we tallied them up the right way. And Fitch,
they had the majority vote in the 1 column. Yeah,
it was crystal clear and at the number 1 spot. So let's say that Fitch wins by 35 points against this Buffalo team this week, and Canfield beats Cheney. Or, you know, if that's the case, how does Canfield not get the absolute fly? I mean, that's the same. It's the same situation.
It's the same situation, yes. Especially because Cheney's 4-0 now, and they're the number 4 seed, and Ursuline is down to 10. But at the same point, you know, like we said, it's hard to flip Canfield back to 1 now because Fitch, they're going to have the majority vote the rest of the way now.
I agree with that.
I think it's going to be very difficult for Canfield to get back to 1 unless Fitch will lose.
I think the toughest thing here is Cheney needs to come out with, you know, their hair on fire. Because if Cheney does not win, we saw what happened to Ursuline. If Cheney does not win this game, it's very easy to fall out of favor with these voters, especially with some of these 4-0 teams still on the map.
Oh, yeah. We've got a couple 4-0 teams, and there's 3 of them right now in the back of my head that aren't even in the top 10. And I know that we're going to have a graphic for that coming up about teams that are on the bubble, and on the outside looking in that probably deserve a spot. But, if Cheney is able to pick up a victory against Canfield, who was the number 1 seed for the first 3 weeks of the season, they've got an argument now to be at least number 2.
Right.
Can they jump South Range? That's a big question.
Well, and that's one of the things people kind of fell out of favor with South Range too.
But I get they had 6 turnovers, but a win's a win.
Well, it's the NE8 again is to me one of the best conferences all around. And I don't care who you're talking about. We had people that were voting for Jefferson in the top 10 because they're playing in the NE8, which is fair. They were a 3-0 team going into that game, played Gerard, the beneficiary, 2 spots up. It's interesting to see all of this kind of come together and people doubting after close games. We're seeing it in college football. Now we're seeing it on our own power rankings where West Branch and Ursuline, the only 2 teams that have a 1 on the right side of their column.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people, myself included, that feel that Ursuline got a little bit of, disrespect falling from grace from 4 to 10.
They fell a long ways. And, I still think that Ursuline's a top 5 team, in my opinion. I think Siggy brings up a good point here. I think JFK's strength of schedule is being overlooked. They're D7, and they just beat a D4 team in Perkins. Like, that's a very impressive win. I mean, Perkins, they were respectable. They were 3-0, D4, and they came from behind, and they beat that team. I just think JFK, it's going to be tough for them to jump the top 4 right now. Whoever loses between Canfield and Cheney, I think JFK is going to take that spot.
You think?
Yeah.
You think that 4 spots, whoever it is?
Mm-hmm.
And whoever loses,
I think whoever loses, I think whoever loses can have the Ursuline effect where they jump from number 2 or number 4 all the way down to number 8 or number 9.
And again, we've got some good games this week as well. Basically, you don't want to lose, and
you just can't lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible because we had people, and again, we do this, and we understand that it's all based on opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But we have people that get really upset that their team's undefeated and not in here. So, with that said, Rich, who are some teams that you think should be in here that are not under the current power rankings?
I'm gonna have to agree with my guy and Gary Niddle. I think him and I were on the same page this week. I put Mineral Ridge in the top 10, and he was fighting for him as well in our group chat. And I think that Mineral Ridge does deserve to be in the top 10.